these are the lectures for Chapter 11. This is Part A on fundamentals of the nervous system and nervous tissue. I can probably go through Part A pretty quickly, but I'm just going to go ahead and let you know that I don't know if this is a good thing or a bad thing, but I have to do all 185 slides. This is information that needs to be explained. It's not, a whole lot of just memorizing. So I'm going to go fast sometimes, but all you have to do is, stop it and go back and listen to it again if you need to. That's the good thing about recording. Okay, the nervous system in general is the controlling and communicating system of the body. In addition, so is the endocrine system, but the difference is, here, let me make sure I can use my pointer. The difference is the nervous system uses electrical signals, also chemical signals called neurotransmitters, but they lead to electrical signals. And those signals are rapid, they are specific, and they usually cause almost immediate responses, but the response may not last very long like it does with the endocrine system. Okay, functions, and these functions all work together. Information is gathered by sensory receptors. This information is all kinds of sensory information. Information on touch, information on pain, heat, cold, what something smells like or tastes like, what sounds that you hear, and also internal conditions like your blood pressure and your breathing rate and your amount of glucose in your blood. So that kind of information is sent to the integration center, which is going to be in the brain or into the spinal cord, and sometimes both. So this is where that information is processed and interpreted so that a signal can be sent to the motor part of the nervous system, the motor part of the pathway of this particular function. The brain or the spinal cord will send a signal telling some target organ what to do. So the motor output is what is done to, if the information that was given to the brain or spinal cord is not good, the motor output is information that is done to fix it, So we call organs that carry out motor output, they're effector organs, and they're typically muscles and glands. And so the motor part is always the response. The sensory part is always gathering the information. All right, and here's an example. You've got an eye that sees a glass of water. The information goes to the back of the retina, and then there's an optic nerve that connects to the brain, actually connects to the occipital lobe of the brain, and that would correspond to this right here. And then the brain is the integration center, so it would give a response. The response is you're thirsty, so the biceps will help you to pick up the glass of water. So sensory is the signal that's given to the brain or spinal cord. Motor is the response of that to that signal. All right, the nervous system, I'm just going to go right here. There is a chart that has all this information, so we're going to skip a bunch of slides. The nervous system is divided into the CNS, or central nervous system, and that is the brain and the spinal cord. And we call them integrative and control centers. So it's for controlling and integrating sensory information. The rest of the nervous system is the peripheral nervous system. These are like the nerves, the cranial nerves and the spinal nerves that extend out from the central nervous system. Some of these are sensory. That means that they are giving your brain and spinal cord sensory information. The sensory or afferent division afferent with an A. Doesn't have any branches. There's it's just called the sensory division. Somatic refers to skeletal muscle, and visceral refers to smooth muscle and cardiac muscle. So the somatic and visceral sensory nerve fibers that give information to the central nervous system are part of this division, the sensory afferent division. And all of these conduct impulses from the receptors to the central nervous system, which is brain or spinal cord. The motor or efferent division, sometimes I say efferent because I'm country, and it helps me remember that the difference. Sometimes I'll call them afferent and efferent. That is not the correct pronunciation, but if you hear me saying that, it's just what when I was taking anatomy and physiology, it's how I remembered them, and it helped me to remember. Efferent helped me to remember, that it starts with an E, and that it's like exit, or a signal that's going away from the central nervous system. So the motor division contains motor nerve fibers, and it conducts impulses from the brain and the spinal cord to effectors, which are muscles and glands. There are two branches of the motor division. There is the somatic nervous system, which controls our skeletal muscle, voluntary muscle. They always associate somatic with skeletal muscle. And then there is the autonomic nervous system. The autonomic nervous system controls muscles and glands that we don't consciously control. Involuntary things that happen in our body, like digestion and our heart rate and our heartbeat and things like that. The autonomic nervous system conducts impulses from the central nervous system to cardiac muscle and smooth muscle and glands. So everything except for skeletal muscles, okay, which we have voluntary control of. So we've got the peripheral nervous system divided into the somatic nervous system, which controls our skeletal muscles, and the autonomic nervous system, which controls our other muscles and glands that are involuntary. Then the autonomic nervous system is divided into the sympathetic division and the parasympathetic division. The sympathetic division is active. It's also associated with the fight or flight response. But really and truly, it's just the sympathetic division causes things to happen, like your heartbeat increases, your breathing rate increases, your pupils will dilate, you might sweat. Your digestive system will shut down for a while, because the sympathetic division needs to help you if, for example, someone tries to kidnap your child and they've got them and you're chasing them down. I mean, that's like one of the worst things you can imagine. Or you're about to get in a car wreck, or you did just get in a car wreck. That is when your sympathetic division is going to shut down the body systems that aren't really needed right now and activate the things that are. So it's going to activate your skeletal muscles. It's going to activate your brain so that you can think fast. Parasympathetic is associated with resting, with relaxing. That's going to slow your heart rate. It's going to slow your breathing rate. It's going to increase digestion and increase your kidney function. Okay, so all these things that we do when we're relaxed or sleeping is parasympathetic. All right, the neurons are the cells of the nervous system, the nerve cells. They're actually called neurons. These are the cells that are excitable. Excitable means that they respond to electric signals and they transmit electric signals. They respond and transmit electric signals. So we call them excitable. Muscle cells or muscle fibers are also excitable. We just came from learning that chapter. The other cells of nervous tissue are called neuroglia, or glial cells. Glial meaning glue. The glue, not that it sticks the the nerve cells together, but glue as in support. Okay, these are small cells that surround and wrap delicate neurons and support the neurons, provide some kind of support to the neurons themselves. The neuroglia, there are four main cells of the neuroglia. They are astrocytes, microglial cells, ependymal cells, and oligodendrocytes. This is for the central nervous system, not the peripheral nervous system. The central nervous system contains cells called astrocytes. I'm just going to show them to you. What the astrocytes do is they actually form something called the blood-brain barrier. You see how it kind of looks like a star, but just with a whole lot more branches than a star. You see how this astrocyte is wrapped around, it's completely wrapped around the blood vessel there. And then there's a wrapping over here around the nerve. It prevents the blood from interacting with the nerve. It forms the blood-brain barrier. And it does deliver nutrients to the neuron without exposing it to potentially harmful substances that are in our blood. We may be carrying a bacterial infection or virus or something, and we don't want to lose neurons because when we do lose them, they don't regenerate very well. So the astrocytes form the blood-brain barrier. This is all in the notes. The microglial cells, and in this case, the microglial cells are the yellow cells and the neuron is the red cell. Microglial cells are the cells that act as the immune system of the nervous system. So they will engulf and destroy pathogens so that the nerve cells or neurons don't get an infection and get destroyed by pathogens. The ependymal cells, they line the inside of the brain and the inside of the spinal cord, and they produce cerebrospinal fluid. That is fluid that helps to support and cushion the brain, and it is sometimes abbreviated CSF. Cerebrospinal fluid is formed by ependymal cells. Ependymal cells are lined with cilia to help move that fluid. That fluid just keeps moving and circulating around the brain and the spinal cord, keeping it healthy. Now, the last type of cell that we're going to talk about in the central nervous system is called an oligodendrocyte. Oligodendrocytes form myelin sheaths. Myelin sheaths around the axons of central nervous system nerve fibers. They're only around the axons of those nerve fibers. So if you remember, here's a neuron. It can have dendrites extending out from it that receive signals. And then here's the nucleus and the cell body. And then here's the axon. We learned enough about this in the muscle chapter that you should remember what the axon of a nerve is, or a neuron. So anyway, the axons are wrapped around with some of the plasma membrane of the oligodendrocytes. They wrap around like a blanket or insulation, and what they're doing is they are creating a mechanism so that the nerve impulse, the electrical impulse, will travel faster. Myelinated axons conduct electricity or conduct impulses faster than unmyelinated. So again, these are oligodendrocytes. I'll stop here, and we will do the cells of the peripheral nervous system in the next section.